Hi, and welcome to Most Shocking. In today's video, we will analyse the murderer Chris Watts and whether the crimes he has now been convicted of were in fact premeditated or a crime of passion. For full details of this shocking crime, check out my last video, but just a quick recap. Born on May the 16th, 1985, Chris Watts is a Colorado man who murdered his pregnant wife, Shannan Watts, and their two young daughters, 4-year-old Bella and 3-year-old Celeste, and also their unborn son, Niko, on August the 13th, 2018. It transpired after the murders that Chris had been having an affair with a work colleague by the name of Nichol Kessinger. Chris and Nicole had spent a great deal of time together in the weeks leading up to the murder, while Shannan was away on a business trip, and subsequently Shannan and Chris were discussing separation following Chris's disclosures that he was unhappy with the marriage and had fallen out of love with Shannan. Chris did not admit to Shannan that he had been unfaithful, but instead toyed with her emotions, by 1 minute showing affection and the desire to work through things, and then the next ignoring Shannan and any attempt to reconcile, leaving Shannan confused and broken. The afternoon of August the 13th, 2018, Shannan's best friend Nicole Atkinson became concerned for Shannan's welfare after failing to be able to make contact with her and learning Shannan had also missed her doctor's appointment due for that morning. After arriving at Shannan's home, Nikki found Shannan's car still in the driveway and shoes inside the door, but could see no sign of her friend or the girls. Let's look at the text message sent to Chris by Shannan's friend, frustrated at the fact he had still not arrived home after being made aware of their concerns. Chris had been contacted by Nicole numerous times asking him to come home and check to make sure Shannan hadn't collapsed somewhere inside, but had found Chris to be evasive and less than helpful, with no sense of understanding surrounding the urgency of the situation, and had told Nikki on several separate occasions that it would be 45 minutes, leaving Shannan's friends angry and confused. Eventually, police officers arrived to conduct a welfare check and searched the outside of the property, looking into windows and banging on the doors to see if there were any signs of life coming from within the property. When Chris did finally arrive home, a thorough search of the property found no sign of Shannan or the children, just Shannan's mobile phone, wedding ring and a few missing items. The following days, Chris spoke to the media, which I believe indicates that the murders could have been premeditated due to his body language and verbal communications. Let's take a look and analyse as we go.
She came home from the airport 2 a.m. and I left around 5:15. She was still here, and about 12:10 in that afternoon, her friend Nicole showed up at the door. I had texted Shannan a few times that day, called her, but she never got back to me. But she wasn't getting back to any of her people as well, and that's what really concerned a lot of people. Is if she's not getting back to her, if she doesn't get back to me, that's fine. She gets busy during the day. But she didn't get back to her people, which was very concerning, and Nicole called me when she was at the door, and that's when I came home.
So this part to me sounds rehearsed. He gives specific times of when Shannan arrived home, what time he left for work, and then what time Nikki arrived at the house. All of which, if the murder was premeditated, he will have thought out in detail in terms of the timeline in order to cover his tracks and convince law enforcement, etc., that he's got no involvement in the disappearance of his family.
And then walked in the house and nothing was vanished. Nothing was here. I mean, she wasn't here. The kids weren't here. Nobody was here.
What's your wife's name?
Shannan, Shannan.
What's your kids?
Bella and Celeste.
How do you spell Celeste?
Celeste.
How old are your daughters?
4. Bella's 4. Celeste is 3.
And so, how many times did you try calling her?
I called her 3 times, texted her about 3 times just to say, what's going on. Because after I called her and texted her once, it was maybe she was just busy. She had just gotten back. Everybody's probably calling her from her trip. She just got back from Arizona, and I figured she was just busy. But when her friend showed up, that's what it was like. It registered all right, this isn't right.
Do you think she just took off? Do you think?
I mean, right now I don't even want to just throw anything out there. I hope that she's somewhere safe right now and with the kids,
So here Chris is using distancing language. He refers to Shannan by name once and names his children when the reporter asks their names and ages, but after that he refers to his family as she and they. Distancing language is used by someone when they are trying to distance themselves from a situation psychologically and as a purpose of self-deception and deceiving others. This is to disengage from the acts that they may have undertaken and separate themselves from what is happening. And here Chris is distancing himself from his wife and children repeatedly.
But I mean, could she just taken off? I don't know. But if somebody has her and they're not safe, like, I want them back now. Like that's what's in my head. Like, if they're safe right now, they're gonna come back. But if they're not safe right now, that's the not knowing part. Like, if they're not safe, last night I had every light in the house on. I was hoping that I would just ran over by the kids running in the door and just like barrel rushing me, but it didn't happen. And it was just a traumatic night trying to be here.
I'm gonna ask some kind of tough questions. Your relationship with your kids.
Yeah, my kids are my life. I mean, those smiles light up my life. And there's like, I mean, last night, like during when they usually eat dinner, it was just like I missed them. Like, I mean, I missed telling them, hey, you got to eat that or you're not gonna get your dessert, and just like you're not gonna get your snack after. I missed that. Like I missed them, cuddle up on their couches. They have like a Minnie Mouse couch and a Sophia couch that they cuddle up on and watch, Bubble Guppies or something. And it was just like, I was. It was tearing me apart last night, and I needed that. I needed that last night, and for nobody to be here last night and to go into their rooms and know that I wasn't going to turn the rain machines on, and I know that I wasn't going to turn their monitor on, and know I wasn't going to kiss them to bed tonight. It was. That's why last night was just horrible. I couldn't do it.
At this point, Chris's narcissism is on full display for all to see. The story that he's relaying is all me, how he felt last night, how he missed his family and the children running in, how he didn't get to do this or that. Not once does he ask the public for help, direct his interview towards Shannan if she's out there by stating his desire for her to come home and maybe work through their issues together, or ask if Shannan was listening and didn't want to come home, then to contact someone, anyone, just so he knew they were safe, trying to reassure Shannan that all would be okay. Instead, it is all about himself and his feelings. Again, this story sounds pre-thought out. How can I gain sympathy from people instead of suspicion? He is also very calm-mannered. If this was a crime of passion, he would have severe sensory overload. He would have to listen to what questions he was being asked, try and concentrate on coming across believable, and also think on his feet as to what he was going to say and what he might have said previously to people so he didn't contradict himself. This kind of overload would make Chris appear much more nervous and on edge. He would make subtle mistakes in his story, and his body language would appear much more stressed. But again, Chris appears calm and collected and in control of his story, even smiling and laughing in places, which hardly appears like a man on the edge of despair.
Right now, this is what they're doing right now is with the canines in the sense. I think this is the biggest thing. This is the biggest thing they've done so far, because yesterday the Frederick Police Department did all the searching of the house and tried to gather whatever information they could, and with the detectives, officers, and sergeants. And today it's, obviously with all the activity that's around, it's there's a lot going on around here, and I really hope that all this can lead to something positive.
What did your neighbors, did they see anything? Did your neighbors see anything?
No, like the police department went door to door asking, like, cameras and everything, just like nothing.
And my last question, if you have any of them, feel free to step in. My last question is, if your wife can see this, if she can watch these, what would you like to tell your wife and your kids?
Shannan, Bella, Celeste, if you're out there, just come back. Like, if somebody has her, just please bring her back. I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody again. This house is not complete without anybody here. Please bring her back.
So Chris kind of makes a plea for Shannan's return here, finally, but the focus of this appears to be more on that someone has Shannan and the girls, has taken them. Like I have previously stated, he doesn't focus on asking Shannan to come home so they can sort things out, assuring Shannan, if she is watching, that everything will be okay, Or again, if not himself, then to contact someone, anyone, to let everyone know that Shannan and the children are all safe, expressing how worried everyone is. Instead, Chris seems to portray more that Shannan and the children have been kidnapped, even though there's no evidence of that. There is no sight that Shannan left the property, let alone anyone arriving. There is no emotion, no tears, no cracks in his voice, no signs of desperation, even though he stated earlier that he was torn apart. All of this points more to a scripted story and thought out answers which would lead us to believe the murders could well have been premeditated. Watch as the security footage from the Watts family home shows Shannan arriving home early hours of that morning after being dropped off by her friend Nikki in the white car that can be seen leaving at around 2 a.m. Surely if this footage captured Shannan arriving home safely, then the same camera would have captured anyone else arriving later that day, or Shannan leaving again, would it not? Now look at the texts that have newly been released showing Chris maintaining his lies by telling friends that Shannan has told him she was going to be visiting a friend's house but wouldn't say who. Why would Shannan be so evasive? If his story was to be believed and they had simply engaged in an emotional conversation rather than a confrontation, Shannan wouldn't have any reason to be secretive about where she was going that day. On Sunday, August the 12th at a little after 5 p.m, approximately 10 to 12 hours before Shannan was murdered, Chris called and texted his friend and workmate to let him know that he would attend the site alone the following day. The site where he buried Shannan and disposed of Bella and Celeste's bodies in oil tankers, stating that he would take care of the work there and to not bother attending. Then a few days prior to the murders, Chris sends an eerie image to Shannan of a doll covered from head to toe in a blanket. Who would send such a thing? Chris stated that the children had placed the doll in that position, but can he be trusted to be telling the truth? Or was this an insight into what was going through Chris's mind? Chris stated in his confession to police that the reason he murdered Shannan is due to them both engaging in an argument surrounding their separation, and Shannan telling Chris that he would never see his children again, that made him fly into a rage and strangle her. Whilst this sounds plausible as a crime of passion, then why did the children have to suffer? If he was so enraged at the thought of never being allowed to see his children again, why would he harm them, resulting in that very thing he is trying to make everyone believe took him to the edge? Why did Chris tell his work colleagues to not attend that site the following day? Why send such a picture of the doll? Or does it make more sense that in fact leading up to the events that transpired that fateful night, Chris had been spending a great deal of time with his mistress Nichol, and possibly thought that if he disposed of his old life altogether, then he could move on to his new life, free of any responsibilities or backlash from Shannan, paving the way for his wants and desires without any repercussions or interference from his wife and children.